हरिः ओम् नमः सर्वेभ्यः। अद्य कृदन्तप्रकरणस्य 69तमः पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे निष्ठाप्रत्ययोः प्रक्रियायाम् इडागमस्य निषेधः कथं भवति तस्य सूत्राणाम् आधारे अध्ययनं कुर्मः। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नमस्कृत्य तदुक्ति परिभाव्य च वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तकौमुदीयं विरच्यते। इदानीं निष्ठाप्रक्रियायाः इडागमविषयकम् अध्ययनं क्रियमाणमस्ति। तत्र पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे मया निष्ठाप्रत्ययोः प्रक्रियायाम् इडागमः कुत्रचित् नित्यं कुत्रचित् विकल्पेन च कथं भवति इत्यस्मिन् विषये कानिचन सूत्राणि उक्तानि। I also gave this particular sheet in the last week. This was the sheet where we had the entire list of all the idagama specific sutras divided into 6 different groups, and then we went over the first and the second group in the last week. Actually, over the weekend, I have modified this particular sheet significantly. So now if you look at the same sheet over here, it actually says nishtha pratyayoho prakriyayam upayujyamanani sutrani. So all the 10 steps associated with the nishtha prakriya have now been captured in this single document. So you can start on the top. Look at this. There is a step number 1 on the top. I don't know if you can see this, but there is krud vritti. So you can go to krud vritti, and basically all possible acceptable krud vrittis are shown in this particular sheet number 1. Then there is the second sheet which shows the sutras required for the itsamnya, lopa and prakritika karyam. Then there is the third sheet which talks about the sutras required for the ardhadhatuka pratyay vivaksha, the transformation that happens in that vivaksha. So you have ardhadhatuki adhikara and you have ashiti iti adhikara. So we had 2 different sections we have already studied. The grey colored sutras are the ones that I have just added to understand the anuvritti or the context. They won't be used in the nishtha prakriya. Then we have the step number 4 and 5, pratyay vidhanam and upapada samasa. There is nothing over here. And then the step number 6, which is the same sheet as of the last time. And then after that, there are few sheets. There is sheet number 7, there is sheet number 8, varna karyam asti, tripadi karyam asti. So all these sheets have already been populated. We will be using these going ahead. So essentially this single document, the link remains the same as given in the last class, but now this single document captures the entire array of sutras. So all the sutras that are required for the nishtha prakriya ever will all be captured in this document. You don't have to look outside this document if you're talking about the nishtha prakriya. So out of that, I just mentioned the first 5 steps we have already studied last time. Step number 6 is what we are currently studying. So in the last week, we started the discussion of idagama. Tatra pramukhyena idagamस्य विषये पठिताः मुख्याः नियमाः के तेषां झटिति पुनरावर्तनं कृत्वा तदनन्तरम् अग्रे सरामः. So the first thing that we saw is there are a bunch of cases yatra yatra idagamah nishidyate. So in case of nishtha prakriya, the nishedha of idagama is extremely common, and then anytime you get a chance to do an idagama nishedha, you end up in doing an idagama nishedha. So anit dhatuhu asti chet ekacha upadeshenu dattat iti idagamah na bhavati. Vet dhatuhu asti chet yasya vibhasha iti idagamah na bhavati. Udit dhatuhu asti chet punarekavaram त्वा प्रत्ययस्य विषये इडागमः विकल्प्यते, therefore यस्य विभाषा इति इडागमः निषिध्यते. ईदित् धातुः अस्ति चेत् साक्षात् श्वीदितो निष्ठायाम् इति इडागमः निषिध्यते. उगन्त धातुः अस्ति चेत् श्रुक्यः किति इति साक्षात् इडागमः निषिध्यते. आदित् धातुः अस्ति चेत् विभाषा भावादिकर्मणोः इत्यनेन भावे तथा आदिकर्मणि, not to be confused with कर्मणि. So आदिकर्मणि तथा भावे इडागमः विकल्प्यते, अन्यत्र आदितश्च इति निषिध्यते. So all these no, once all these are removed, finally the list of dhatus, प्रायः 1500 approximately, तत्र सर्वत्र इडागमः आर्धधातुकस्य इड् बलादेः इत्यनेन भवितुम् अर्हति. So this is the initial set of sutras, which will basically capture many of your use cases. Like the first few sutras and this last will probably capture 85% to 90% of your use cases. And now we are seeing the special case, the specific set of sutras. Tatra group 1 तथा group 2, set 1 तथा set 2 एतयोः अध्ययनं पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे अस्माभिः कृतम्. So we divided all these sutras into 6 different groups based on their characteristics. Some of them give the idagama, some of them give the nipatana, some of them give the nishedha, some of them give it compulsory, some of them give it optional. So based on that, we had created 6 sets. Out of that, set 1 and set 2 we studied in the last class. Let's quickly go over those sutras to have a summary of what we studied in the last week, and then we will move ahead. So tatra set 1 iti asti nityam idagamah bhavati. So actually we have that particular division also on the next slide here. So first is nishtha pratyaho nityam idagamah, that's set 1, and nishtha pratyaho vaikalpikaha idagamah, that's set 2. So let's actually go to set 1 and set 2. Set 1 is nityam idagamah. नित्यम इडागमः इत्यत्र चत्वारि सूत्राणि अस्माभिः दृष्टानि. तत्र प्रथमम् इण् निष्ठायाम् इति सूत्रम्. सो निर उपसर्गपूर्वकः कुश धातुः, तस्य विषये इडागम विकल्पः भवति. अयं वेट् धातुः अस्ति, अतः यस्य विभाषा इत्यनेन इडागमः निषिध्यते, परन्तु निर प्लस् कुश इत्यस्य विषये नित्यम् इडागमः इष्यते, अतः भिन्नं सूत्रं कृतमस्ति. इण् निष्ठायाम् इत्यनेन निर प्लस् कुश इत्यस्य विषये इडागम विधानं भवति. So that's first step, first sutra in that set. The next sutra, vasati kshudhoho it, for two specific dhatus, vasa and kshudha. Both of these dhatus are anit dhatus, but we need the idagama for them. Therefore, explicit sutra has been created. Vasa plus kta ushita, kshudha plus ta kshudhita. The third sutra is anche pujayam. Anchu gati pujanayoho iti dhatuhu. तत्र केवलं पूजायाम् इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे इडागमः इष्यते, अतः अंचे पूजायाम् इति सूत्रेण अंचु पूजायां प्लस् क्त इत्यत्र इडागमे कृते अंचित इति रूपं सिद्ध्यति. गतौ तु अक्तः, नो चेत् देयर इज अ सेपरेट सूत्रम, वी विल स्टडी इट लेटर ऑन, अक्नः इति अपि रूपं सिद्ध्यति. तदनन्तरं चतुर्थं सूत्रं लुभो विलोम विमोहने, स्पेसिफिक फॉर लुभ धातु. So by the sutra tisha sah lubha rusha rishaha, there is a lubha over here. This lubha dhatu, the takaradi pratyaya attached to this lubha dhatu gets an optional idagama, and therefore yasya vibhasha will cause the nishedha of the idagama of nishtha pratyayas. Therefore specifically for the lubha dhatu, the nishtha pratyaya does not get the idagama. So lubha gardhye plus kta is lubdha is an example. There is another dhatu called lubha vimohane. For this, so we had two dhatus. There is lubha gardhye and lubha vimohane. For lubha vimohane, we need the idagama. So the separate sutra has been created. Lubha vimohane tatra idagame krute lubhita iti rupam siddhyati. So this is set number 1, which had 4 different sutras where compulsory idagama happens. So somebody is asking, the set number 1 will not have any dhatu from the last row where a compulsory idagama is there. So all these anye dhatavaha yatra idagama bhavati are all technically in the set 1 only, but there is no specific sutram for that. All of them get captured by ardha dhatukasya idvaladehe. So ardha dhatukasya idvaladehe sutram itself captures the cases for patha, pathita, then what, hasa, hasita, and so on. What we are talking are explicit set of sutras where a previously blocked idagama has been overturned and an idagama has been given. So if you see in that particular chart, there is ardha dhatukasya idvaladehe, I think 35 number, ardha dhatukasya idvaladehe. I have not included it in any particular set. I have just called it as idagama vidhanam. I mean, you can add it into set 1 also. That doesn't really harm. So set 1 is nityam idagama vidhanam. You can add it, but that's a top level utsarga for all the sutras. So I have given it as an idagama vidhanam. And set 1 then consists of explicit sutras where an idagama has been given by blocking some other nishedha. So that was about the set 1. The set 2 is the vaikalpika idagama. So vikalpa, as I explicitly mentioned in the last class, is two ways. There could be 100% nishedha, and then that nishedha has been made optional. So idagama comes in 50% of the cases. Or there could be 100% idagama, and then a nishedha has been added by an option. So again, idagama comes in 50%. Whichever way you look at it is completely based on your own interpretation, understanding. It's eventually either 0 to 50 or 100 to 50. That's basically the vaikalpika idagama that we are talking about. So vaikalpika idagama, we have multiple, some 6-7 sutras we studied. That's the, I think, the whatever brown color statement over here. So set 2 vaikalpika idagama. The most common one is vibhasha bhavadi karmanoho. So aka adit dhatu asti, yimida, yikshvida, and so on. Adit dhatu asti chet adi karmani tatha bhave tatra idagamaha vikalpena nishidhyate, which means vikalpena bhavati. Then there is another sutra, mrushyamattvara sanghusha swanam. A list of dhatus has been given. Rusha, ama, tvara, sama plus ghusha. So see how explicit he goes. A specific upasarga with a specific dhatu. Sama plus ghusha and a plus swana. For each of them, an optional idagama has been given. The examples also tell you why that option is required. So rusha iti dhatuhu asti tatra kenachit sutrena nityam nishedha uchyate. So 7 to 48, if you look at this sutram, tisha saha lubha rusha rishaha. So atra rusha iti dhatuhu asti अस्मात् धातोः विहितस्य तकारादि प्रत्ययस्य इडागम विकल्पः भवति अतः निष्ठायाम् इण् निषेधः भवति यस्य विभाषा will cause इण् निषेध. Therefore rusha should not actually get the idagama for nishtha pratyayas, but we would like to have rusha dhatu, and therefore rusha plus the optional idagama is brought back by this rushamattvara sutram. The second is ama, so rushi plus ama. Second is ama. This ama dhatu is a set, so it compulsory gets the idagama that has been made optional. The third is tvara. The verb is adita. So the idagama is compulsory blocked for the normal cases like kartari case, and therefore it is optionally brought back. We also discussed some shastra aspects about whether tvara should actually be adita or not. In this context, we have studied shastra aspects in the last class. Agre sama plus ghusha ityatra 7 to 23. We will see this sutra actually today, 7 to 23. Ghushi ravi shabdane. So ghusha dhatuhu asti tasya vishaye ghushi ravi shabdane. We are going to study this sutra today. It gives a block of the idagama, but when sama upasarga comes, we would like to have an optional idagama for sama plus ghusha vaikalpika idagamaha bhavati. So that's sama plus ghusha. And swana, it is a set dhatu, therefore you compulsory get the idagama. That needs to be optionally blocked when a upasarga is present. So a plus swana atra set tvat nityam idagame prapte pakshikaha idagama nishedhaha. So that was the sutra rushamattvara sanghusha swanam. Agre asit rusher lomasu. So rusha dhatu, to get excited, to be happy, when that particular action is exhibited in terms of the hairs of the body, like getting goosebumps, in that particular context, there is an optional idagama nishedha. So rushtaha loman, rushtam loma, nochet rushitam loma, nochet rushtani lomani, rushitani lomani, iti atra prayogaha drishyante. Tadanantaram, so that was set 2, and then there are 2 more sutras, set 2, all the way towards the end over here. Klishaktva nishthayoho and pungashcha. Specific dhatus again, klisha and punga. For both of these dhatus, klisha is udit dhatu, pung is ugant dhatu. For both of them, yasya vibhasha will block the idagama compulsorily for right, for both of them, because klishu is udita, it becomes wet, therefore yasya vibhasha blocks it. For pung, it is ugit, so shrukyah kiti will actually block it. So there is an explicit blockage for pung pavani. For both of them, optional idagama is brought back. So these are the set of sutras that we studied in the last class. These are the first 2 buckets. The next 2 buckets are the nishedha of the idagama, which is what we are going to learn in today's class. So nishtha pratyayoho sakshat idagama nishedha and nishtha pratyayoho yasya vibhasha iti idagama nishedha. So sometimes the idagama is blocked explicitly by giving a sutram to block the idagama. Sometimes the idagama is made optional for some other pratyaya, like say twa pratyaya, san pratyaya, lit pratyaya, some other pratyaya the idagama is made optional, and therefore yasya vibhasha will indirectly block the idagama for the nishtha pratyayas. So sakshad idagama nishedha tatha cha yasya vibhasha iti idagama nishedha. So that's set number 3 and set number 4. Let's now go to the sutram of the group set number 3. Idaagamasya sakshat nishedha. So explicitly idagama has been blocked, and the first sutra in that list is ekacha upadeshenudatta. All the anit dhatus, the explicit idagama has been blocked. So just like the way we said that sar ardhadhatukasya idvaladehe can be brought into set 1, similarly in set 3 you can have ekacha upadeshenudatta, which basically explicitly blocks the idagama for all the anit dhatus sakshat nishedha. There is a like one line explanation on the slide, but I don't think I need to explain that. Ekach upadeshenudatta, this is the premise that we started with. Upadesheyaha ekach dhatuhu anudattaha tasya idag tasmad vihitasya nishtha pratyasya idagamaha na bhavati. So rama becomes rata, pacha becomes pakva, and so on. The second sutra in the list is Shryukaha Kiti. Again, all these sutras have already been discussed, but just because I want to have a comprehensive list, I'm writing them again. So Shryukaha Kitihi, Shri iti dhatuhu asti, nochet ugit dhatuhu asti. Ugit ityukte ukaraha, ukaraha, rikaraha, rikaraha yasya ante vidyate. Sah ugit dhatuhu. Etadrishaha dhatuhu asti chet तस्मात् विहितस्य निष्ठा प्रत्ययस्य इडागमः निषिध्यते. सो श्रिय धातुः अत्र उदाहरणं दत्तमस्ति, भू धातुः अत्र उदाहरणं दत्तमस्ति. सो श्रियुकः कितिः, श्री इत्येतस्य उगन्तानां च किति प्रत्यये परतः इडागमः न भवति. सो दिस सूत्र इज नॉट स्पेसिफिक टू निष्ठा, बट इट कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर निष्ठा. किति कोऽपि कित् प्रत्ययः अस्ति चेदपि अस्य सूत्रस्य प्रयोगः भवितुम् अर्हति. अतः निष्ठा प्रत्यय विषये अपि अस्य प्रसक्तिः अस्ति. So Shritaha, Yutaha, Lunaha, Vrutaha, Tirnaha. One example of each of them is given. You have Shri, Rasva Ukara, Dirgha Ukara, Rasva Rukara, and Dirgha Rukara. These are ending vowels of all these dhatus. The next one in set number 3, Shvidito Nishtayam. Again, Shvi iti dhatuhu. In the previous case, it was Shri, not to be confused. Here it is Shvi dhatu. So Shvi dhatu, tu o Shvi gativruddhyoho, and idit dhatu, dirgha ikarah itsamnyakah asti, opyayi iti dhatuho asti. Etadrishanam dhatunam vishaye idagamah sakshat nishidhyate. So nishtayam iti likhitam asti, sakshat nishidhyate. So Shvi dhatuhu, idit dhatuhu, etayoho nishtayam idagamah sakshat nishidhyate. Shunaha, shunaman. So Edith example is Olaji, Lagnavan, Oviji, Vignavan, and so on. So we have already studied all this. The next sutram, the fourth sutram in the list, purple colored set number 3, I'm going. Aditascha, again already discussed. Nishtha pratyaho idagam nishedha adit dhatu asti chet bhave tatha adi karmani etan vihaya etau vihaya anyatra sarvatra ityukte karmani bhavet kartari bhavet ityatra sarvatra ayam idagamah nishidyate. So mida snehane kartarikta asti minna iti idagamah nishiddha asti. So aditascha dhatoho nishtayam idagamah na bhavati, minnaha, minnavan, shvinnaha, svinnavan, and so on. There is a chakara present in this particular sutram, aditascha. Kashikakara says anukta samuchya, chakaraha tu anukta samuchayarthaha. I think there's a typing mistake over here. Chakaraha tu anukta samuchayarthaha. So some other dhatus are also there. So shwasa, for example, ashwasta iti atra rupam bhavati. So this is one paksha. Other people say that shwasa will be shwasita only. There is no need of having the special meaning attached to chakara in aditascha. So Kashikakara says that chakara can bring in some other verbs, just to be taken with a pinch of salt. That's why I don't want to go in the details about that. So this is basically the set of sutras that we already studied earlier. Let's go to the remaining set of sutras. Many of them are there, and all these remaining ones are actually specific ones, new ones. So I'll just quickly go through them. Drushishasi Vaiyatye, this is one sutram, and then there are 4 sutras in this particular list. Kruchchagahanayoho kashaha, Ghushi Ravishabdane, not to be confused with, this is Drushi and this is Ghushi. Ghushi Ravishabdane, Arde Sannivibhyaha, Abhescha Vidurye. So these are, there is nothing else after that. So these are the 4 sutras and the one Drushishasi Vaiyatye. So 5 sutras, new sutras that we need to study over here. Idagamasya tatra vishishtanam dhatunam vishaye sakshat nishedha grutah asti. So basically, Drushishasi Vaiyatye, Drusha iti dhatuho asti, nochet shasa iti dhatuho asti. Kruchchagahanayoho kashaha, kasha iti dhatuho asti. Ghushi Ravishabdame, Ghusha iti dhatuho asti. And for both the next sutras, Arde Sannivibhyaha and Abhescha Vidurye, Arda iti dhatuho asti. So all the examples have been given over here. We'll just take a look at the sutras now to understand how this whole process is going up. I think this Drushishasi Vaiyate, I must have copied something from a wrong place. I think I'll just fix this. I think this must have been copied from a wrong place. I think others are correct. This one seems to be copied from some incorrect place. I'll fix it after the class. Okay, Drushishasi Vaiyatye iti prathamam sutram. Let's understand this. Actually, these are only 5 sutras, but some involved things are some things are actually involved over here. They need to be explained at this particular point. So yidhrusha pragalbhye iti swadiganasya set adit dhatuhu asti. So this is yidhrusha pragalbhye. Pragalbhya, as I mentioned in last class also, it has multiple different shades of meaning. On one side, on a positive note, it can also mean to have maturity or greatness of understanding, ability to take risks, ability to venture into areas without being afraid of them. So that's a positive tone of yidhrusha pragalbhye. There is a negative tone to this particular yidhrusha pragalbhye, being arrogant, being very egoistic, thinking too much about one's own power. So these are also various meanings associated with this yidhrusha pragalbhye. Everything has been captured by the pragalbhye word itself. I mean, both of these are very related. If somebody is prone to take risks, he typically thinks quite a lot about himself. He has probably a high self-confidence, sometimes overconfidence. So both of these things go hand in hand. Therefore, everything has been captured together in pragalbhye. This is set dhatu adit dhatuhu asti. Adit asti, atah aditascha ityanena idagamaha nishidyate. Bhavadikarmanoho vishayetu vibhasha bhavadikarmanoho iti vikalpyate. This is the baseline on which this Drushishasi Vaiyatye sutram is now based. So this is the base premise. And then there is a shasa dhatu. It is udit, and therefore yasya vibhasha will cause the idagama nishedha of the shasa dhatu. So what is the current scenario? Yidhrusha will get idagama nishedha by aditascha, and shasa dhatu will get idagama nishedha by yasya vibhasha. So idagama nishedha is already there for both of them. Having said that, an explicit sutra for idagama nishedha for these two dhatus have been added. Siddhe sati arambhaha niyamarthaha. So that acts as a niyama sutram. So asyam sthitau acharyena drushishasi vaiyatye iti sutram kriyate. Vaiyatya Vaiyatya explicitly means pragalbhya. There is kind of no difference between the two. Vaiyatya means avinayaha, dharishyam, arrogance, egoistic attitude. All these things are being represented by Vaiyatya. Now, Drusha Dhatu, even if the Dhatu Patha gives the only meaning as pragalbhya, which is same as Vaiyatya, धातूनाम अनेकाः अर्थाः सन्ति, अतः धृष धातु भिन्नेषु अर्थेषु अपि प्रयुज्यते. So to apply a force, or say to pressurize somebody. That is also a sense in which the drusha dhatu is used. Now, for those particular meanings, we do not want the idagama nishedha. That is, we want the idagama. Therefore, this particular sutra says drusha dhatu tatha cha shasa dhatu kevalam vayyatyam asmin arthe prayujyate chedeva tasmat vihitasya nishtha pratyasya idagama nishidhyate. So dhrushi shasi vayyatye vayyatyasya vishaye ityarthah. वैयात्य कश्चन प्रश्नः अस्ति अत्र सप्तमी किमर्थं प्रयुज्यते वैयात्यस्य विषये वैयात्यस्य सन्दर्भे वैयात्ये गम्यमाने इति अर्थः अस्ति अतः सप्तमी प्रयुज्यते धृषिशसि वैयात्ये दिस् इस् द्विवचनं शसि तस्य प्रथमा द्विवचनं शसि इति भवति धृषिशसि वैयात्ये अत्र वैयात्य वियतस्य भावः एरोगन्स् इति अस्ति चेत् धृषधातु तथा शशधातु एतयोः इडागमः निषिध्यते अन्येषु अर्थेषु. What do I mean by अन्येषु अर्थेषु? Number one, धातूनाम अनेके अर्थाः सन्ति. So a same dhatu can be used in a different meaning. Number two, upasarga dhatvartho baladanyatra niyate. So when an upasarga is added on the dhatu, the meaning can change. So as soon as the meaning changes, this particular idagama nishedha is not applicable, and therefore you will get the idagama. So for example, drusha iti dhatuh asti. Vayyatyam ityasmin arthe drusha plus kta will give drushta. Similarly, shasa plus kta will give shasta. Both of these words will mean, say, avinita, uddhata, cruel, arrogant, egoistic, boasts about himself, and so on. And this is not in a very negative style, in the sense, for example, Bhima is very commonly described as the Drishtanayaka. Any particular play in which Bhima has to be portrayed, Bhima will be shown as a Nayaka who is very powerful, but at the same time he is extremely egoistic of his power, he is egoistic of his capabilities. So Drishtaha Nayakaha Bhima. If you compare, so for example, Yudhishthira is a Prashanta Nayakaha. Bhima is a Drishtaha Nayaka. There are 4 different types of Nayakas that are talked in the Sahitya Shastra. One of them is the Drishta Nayaka. A typical example is Duryodhana. A typical example is Bhima. In Veni Samharam, for example, Bhattanarayana has explained, has very beautifully portrayed Bhima as a Drishta Nayaka. So Drishta or Shasta idagamaha nishidyate arthaha api atra samanah asti. Anyeshu artheshu, so forced, pressurized इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे तु तत्र वैयात्यं नास्ति अतः धर्षितः धृष प्लस् क्त धर्षित गुणः भवति. सो धृष प्लस् क्त इत्यत्र विहितः क्त प्रत्ययः कित् नास्ति. अग्रे पश्यामः निष्ठाशीं स्विदि मिदिक्ष्विदि धृषः. If you have memorized some initial part of Ashtadhyayi, so there is drusha dhatu over there. Therefore drusha dhatoho vihitah nishtha pratyayah akidvat karyam karoti. As soon as becomes akita, pugantala bhupadasya will give a guna. We will see that a little bit later in the next step. So for now, the guna will cause the final form to be dharshita. Similarly, shasa will become vishasita. Upasargena dhatvarthaha balad anyatra niyate. So somebody is asking dhrushyasi iti likhyate chet kaha doshaha. So you should always understand that the e present in the particular, so the dhatus are typically represented as with an ik nirdesha or a shtip nirdesha. So we usually say ik shtipau dhatu nirdeshe. Dhatus in sutras are typically present using an ika nirdesha or a stipa nirdesha. That's a general convention, and therefore he has used the ika nirdesha over here by giving drushi and shasi. So when to use the ika nirdesha and when to use the stipa nirdesha, there are reasons. It goes as deep as into the Yangluka Prakriya. We don't have to go in the details. In general, understand that typically dhatus are represented. Not always, there will always be some exceptions here and there. But most commonly, the rule is that dhatus in sutras are represented using either ika pratyay. So drusha plus e becomes drushi, shasa plus e becomes shasi, or a shtipa pratyaya. So let's quickly read the sutram and agre gacchamaha. Drushishasi Vaiyatye Vyatasya Bhava. Viyat is basically his written over there. Pragalbha is Vyata, Tasya Bhavaha Vaiyatyam Pragalbhyam Nochet Pragalbhata. So Vyatasya Bhavaha Vaiyatyam Pragalbhyam Avinitata. Tatra Drushishasi Ityatayoho Nishtayam idagamaha na bhavati. Drushtaha Ayam Vishastaha Ayam. Drushehe Aditashya Pratishedhaha Siddhaha. Shasehe Udito va Yasya Vibhasha iti Pratishedha Siddha. So he's asking, if it's already been blocked, why are you again telling it? The obvious answer is Siddhe Sati Prarambha Niyamarthaha. Niyamarthamidam Vachanam Drushishasyoho Vaiyatye eva id bhavati, id na bhavati, anyatra bhavati. So the question about Bhavadi Karma comes. In the Bhavadi Karma sense, it is already optional. So then there are matantaras. I don't want to go in the details. You can read the commentaries on your own if you want. But there are difference of opinions. Some people say that the question doesn't come for the Bhavadi Karma and so Bhave and Adi Karma, because that particular meaning is not used at all in Bhave and Adi Karma. So Bhavadi Karmano hotu Vaiyatye Drushihi Nasti Eva. So for Bhavadi Karma, there is no Vaiyatya, and therefore Vibhasha Bhavadi Karmano is not to be used. The idagama will always happen, and so on. So there are matantaras. Kaumudi also talks about what Haradatta says and what Madhava says and all that. Completely, fine-grained discussion, will not need to go in the details. All that you need to remember is that forget about whether it is Adit Dhatu or not. All that we need to remember is Drusha Dhatu asti chet Vaiyapya artha asti chet idagama na bhavati anyatra tu idagama bhavati. That's what is also written in the Kaumudi. Drushehe aditve phalam chintyam. Why is that aditva present? Yi drusha akaraha kimartham itsamnyaka tatra sthapita asti. Because the reason of having itsamnyaka akara is to block the idagama by aditesha, or give an option for vibhasha bhavadi karmanoho. So if Vaiyatya is the only case where the idagama is to be blocked, and in other cases idagama is not to be blocked, why you really need that aditva akar, itsamnyaka akara over there? So there are further discussions on that particular aspect. We'll not need to go in the details. Let's quickly go over initial part of the Kaumudi. Etau nisthayam avinaye eva anitau staha drishtaha vishastaha anyatra tu dharshitaha vishasitaha bhavadi karmanoh tu vaiyatye dhrishi nasti ataiva niyamarthamidam sutram iti vrittihi iti kashikakarah vadati. Agre gacchamaha. Next one is actually simple, so let's take a quick look. We had the first one over here, dhrishishasi vaiyatye. तत्र अग्रिमं सूत्रमस्ति कृच्छगहनयोः कषः. कष इति भ्वादिगणस्य धातुः हिंसायाम्. Again, this particular verb, a specific meaning is given in which the idagama is being blocked. So earlier what was happening? Idagama was being compulsorily blocked. Then a niyama was made that only in a certain meaning that idagama will be blocked. Now here what is happening? Idagama is again compulsorily given because it is a set dhatu. Kasha himsayam iti set dhatuhu asmad dhato idagamaha nityam vidhiyate. Asmad dhato nishtha pratyayo vihita asmad dhatoho vihitayoho nishtha pratyayo idagama nityam bhavati. That is now blocked in a specific meaning of kruchha and gahana. So kruchha gahanayoho kashaha. Kasha iti dhatuhu asti. When used in the specific meaning of kruchha and gahana. What is kruchha? Kruchha means dukkham. Look at this. Kruchham means dukkham. Dukkhasya karanam. So the actual pain and the entity that causes the pain. So for example, if I put my hand in the fire, I get some pain. Therefore, the fire is the cause of the pain. That will also be called kruchham, and the pain itself will also be called kruchham. So kruchham ityukte dukkham, noche dukkhasya karanam, both of them. So that's kruchha. And gahana means extremely complex, deep, involved, and so on. So ityetayoho arthayoho idagamaha na bhavati anyatra tu set asti dhatuh ataha bhavati. So kruchha gahanayoho kashaha. Kruchha gahana ityetayoho arthayoho kashehe dhatoho nisthayam idagamaha na bhavati. Kashtaha agnihi. So Agni is kashtadayaka, or it is kruchha. Agni causes pain. It is dukkhasya karanam. So kruchha. So kashtaha. Kasha plus kta becomes kashta. Kashtam vyakaranam. So you can treat it either dukkhadayaka or gahana, whichever party you belong to. Vyakaranam is dukkhadayi, too many derivations to remember or too many specific sutras to remember. Or it is gahana, it is complex, it is gabhira, too many utsarga pavadas, specifically nishtha prakaranam, for example. So kashtam vyakaranam tatopi kashtatarani samani. The samaveda, the ruchas of samaveda are even more complex to understand. Maybe somebody can understand vyakaranam, but probably more difficult to understand the samani. So kashtam vyakaranam tatopi kashtatarani samani. Krucham dukkham tat karanam api agnyadikam krucham ityuchyate. Gahane kashtani vanani. So the vana, the jungle is deep. Kashtaha parvataha, difficult to climb. Krucha gahanayoho iti kim? In any other meaning, you have to resort back to the normal set behavior and get the idagama. So kashitam suvarnam, a suvarna that is well tested, well rubbed, its quality is known, that is a kashitam suvarnam. So there you get an idagama. Kaumudi says kashoho nishtayam id nasyad etayoho arthayoho kashtam dukkham tat karanam cha stat kashtam krucham abhilam kashto mohaha kashtam shastram. Same thing he is repeating over here. Kashitam anyata. Agre gacchamaha. The third sutram, this is actually the only complex sutram in today's class. Ghushihi avishabdame. Ghushihi avishabdane. Somebody is making a very nice comment over here. Kashtam parantu ishtam vyakaranam. So I'm very happy to know that vyakaranam kashtam asti parantu ishtam asti. So let's go to the next one. Ghushihi avishabdane. This is the only sutram that requires probably next 10-15 minutes of discussion. Otherwise, all the remaining sutras in today's class are extremely easy. So Ghushihi avishabdane, lots of circus is there in this particular sutram. Ghushihi avishabdane. Let's go slow and let's understand this. Ghushihi avishabdane iti bhadiganasya set dhatuhu asti. Actually, before we look onto this, give me 1 minute. We can actually go to the dhatu patha and see this ghusha dhatu. This is more important. So let's see this ghushir dhatu over here. That will actually help. So if you take this ghushir dhatu in the dhatu patha, there are two ghusha dhatus. Look at this, and this is the whole source of confusion. There is a ghusha dhatu in the bhadigana, which is ghushir avishabdane. And there is a ghusha dhatu in the churadi gana, which is exactly opposite meaning. Ghushir vishabdane. So one is avishabdane and other is vishabdane. So two completely different meanings are there. Let's understand these meanings first and then we will go to the sutram. Vishabdana means, actually it's written over here, to announce, to explicitly state something in a clear manner. So vishabdana is, say, Shabdena abhipraya prakashanam is what Bala Manorama says. Use explicit words to convey your idea or your thoughts. That's called Vishabdana. Opposite of that is Avishabdana. So sound will be there, but it will not be a distinct sound. It will be some, say, murmur, or it will be some avyakta sound, a sound of a bell, or a sound of, say, for example, a musical instrument, sound of walking, sound of, say, wind or something like that. So basically, Ghusha Vishabdane is announcement or to speak loudly. Ghusha Avishabdane means to make indistinct sound. Very simple actually. Till this point, there is no confusion. Two opposite meaning dhatus. One of them is in the bhadi gana, one of them is in the churadi gana. It's as simple as that. And now what is the sutram? The sutram is Ghushihi Avishabdane. So this particular sutram should make it clear that this sutram is only applicable for the Bhwadi Gana Avishabdane dhatu. The meaning has been explicit. Meaning is going to give it all. So Ghushihi Avishabdane iti Bhwadi Ganasya dhatuhu asti asya vishaye asya sutrasya prasaktihi asti. And why does he explicitly have to say Avishabdane, Panini Maharshi? Because if he just says Ghusha, then Avishabdana and Vishabdana, both of them will come and sit in that sutram. He explicitly wants Avishabdana, so he has to mention that meaning over there to separate out the Bhwadi Gana Dhatu and filter it out or remove the Churadi Gana Dhatu. So Ghusha Avishabdane, this is a set dhatu, so you will get the idagama that has to be blocked. सो घुषिः अविशब्दने इति भ्वादिगणस्य धातुः अस्मात् धातोः विहितयोः निष्ठा प्रत्ययोः सेट् अस्ति, अतः नित्यम् इडागमे प्राप्ते सः निषिध्यते, तस्य निषेधः इष्यते, अतः घुषिरविशब्दने इति सूत्रं पाठ्यते। अविशब्दने अर्थे अस्पष्ट शब्दः इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे, विशब्दना मीन्स अनाउंसमेंट, एक्सप्लिसिट स्पीकिंग, अविशब्दना इज इनडिस्टिंक्ट और अस्पष्ट साउंड, अस्पष्ट शब्दः इत्यस्मिन् अर्थे घुष धातोः विहितयोः निष्ठा प्रत्ययोः इडागमः न भवति। सो घुष प्लस त, दिस इज द भ्वादिगण घुष धातु, घुष प्लस त becomes घुष्ट. So ghushtarajjuhu, a rope for example, when it is moved in the air, indistinct sound is heard. Ghushtau padau, when say legs are, when you're walking for example, your legs will probably make some indistinct sound. So these are typical usages in which this particular dhatu or this particular word is seen to be used. सो घुषिरविशब्दने इत्यस्य धातोः विषये अत्र इडागमः निषिध्यते. सो दैट्स एज सिंपल एज दैट. घुषिर अविशब्दने इत्यस्य विषये इडागमः निषिध्यते, घुषिर विशब्दने इत्यस्य विषये अस्य सूत्रस्य प्रसक्तिः नास्ति. So far so good, there is no confusion. The confusion starts at this moment. What Bhashyakara says is that this Churadigana dhatu Ghushir Vishabdane can also have another meaning of Ghushir Avishabdane. This is where the confusion starts. So what the Bhashyakara says, understand this carefully. The Bhashyakara says that the Bhvadigana dhatu is Avishabdane, but the Churadigana dhatu can be Vishabdane or it can be Avishabdane. So the Churadigana verb can be used in both the meanings, to make indistinct sound and to announce, to make a distinct sound. So ubhayatra Churadiganasya dhatoho prayogaha bhavati iti bhashyakarasya matamasti. Now, if you agree to that, then the scope of this sutra suddenly increases. Because this sutra says Ghushihi Avishabdane, and now if you are saying that the Churadigana dhatu can also come in two flavors, Avishabdane as well as Vishabdane, then this sutram immediately gets expanded and the Avishabdane component of the Churadigana also gets captured over here. So Ghushir Vishabdane iti Churadiganasya dhatu Bhashyakarasya matena अस्य धातोः अविशब्दने अस्मिन् अर्थे अपि प्रयोगः भवति. अस्मिन् प्रयोगे निष्ठा प्रत्यय इडागमः घुषिर अविशब्दने इत्यनेन निषिध्यते. So now see what is happening. For the verb of a Churadigana, if it is used in the vishabdana sense, there is the normal idagama. This sutra is not applicable. If it is used in the avishabdana sense, there is no idagama because Ghushir Avishabdane sutra is now being used. This difference is only for Churadigana. We are not talking about Bhvadigana. Bhvadigana is only one meaning, Avishabdane, no confusion there. For Churadigana, now according to Bhashyakara, there is Vishabdane and Avishabdane. Vishabdane, no idagama, Vishabdane, no confusion because idagama will be there. Avishabdane, the idagama will be blocked because the previous sutra comes in the picture. Again, so far so good. We have seen these kind of examples where only some meaning has idagama being blocked. So again, no confusion at this stage. The real problem comes because if you think about this Ghushir dhatu of the 10th gana, whether you do idagama or whether you don't do idagama, the final form never changes for the verbs of the 10th gana. Understand this. We will learn this a little bit later also. But whether you do idagama or whether you don't do idagama, the final form is always the same for the verbs of the 10th gana. So Churadiganasya dhatunam set. All these are set dhatus only because Rich will make them set. So Churadiganasya dhatunam vishaye idagamah kriyate na va na kriyate chet tadeva rupam siddhyati. So anytime you are dealing with the Churadigana, the idagama discussion is actually fruitless. Anytime you do idagama or you don't do idagama, you always get the same form. Observe how it happens. if you do an idagama, see, because it is a churadigana verb, you anyway get a nich. So nich is compulsory, swarthe nich. Now, if you do an idagama, you say ghusha plus nicha plus ita plus kta, ghushi, that's ghusha plus nicha, plus e plus kta. At this particular time, the nich pratyaya is removed by a sutram called neraniti, which we will learn later on. So neraniti iti sutrena, sorry, nishtayam seti, 6452, typing mistake. I'll fix this later on. The sutram is nishtha. This is a big mistake. So let me actually show the sutram over there. Nishtayam seti. So this 6452 nishtayam seti. This particular sutram over here. So nishtayam seti ittenena sutrena, simple sutram. Nishtha pratyayah asti, set dhatuh asti, चेतणी इत्यस्य लोपः भवति. निष्ठायां सेट इति सूत्रेण निष्ठा प्रत्ययः अस्ति तथा च सेट धातुः अस्ति चेत् णिच् लुप्यते. So that's what is happening over here. निष्ठा प्रत्ययः अस्ति, सेट धातुः अस्ति, अतः णिच् लुप्यते. निष्ठायां सेटि. So घुष plus e plus t gives घुषित. The णिच् goes away. घुष plus e plus घुषित. On the other hand, if you don't give the णिच्, then simply ghusha plus nicha plus ta, ghusha plus e will become ghushi plus ta ghushita. So whether you do an idagama or whether you don't do an idagama, the form is the same. If that is the case, then why does Bhashyakara explicitly say that the idagama is being blocked for the churadi gana dhatu? That's the boiling question. Understand the question first. The churadi gana dhatu comes in two flavors, avishabdane and vishabdane. And for vishabdane idagama happens, for avishabdane idagama does not happen because ghushir avishabdane will block it. So far so good, but the problem is whether you use idagama or whether you don't use idagama, the form is eventually the same. Therefore, what is the reason for the Bhashyakara to explicitly say that idagama is being blocked for avishabdane and idagama is being given for vishabdane? Let me repeat this for one last time. Understand, the question is very crucial to understand. All that we are caring is why does Bhashyakara put so much stress on avishabdane versus vishabdane for the 10th gana dhatu ghushir. If it is avishabdane, idagama is blocked. If it is vishabdane, idagama is not blocked. But whether idagama is blocked or whether idagama is not blocked, the final form is ghushita, which is just one and the same form. So why spend so much time on telling that idagama is blocked in one case and idagama is not blocked in another case? The answer over here is that when Bhashyakara explicitly says idagama is blocked in one case and not blocked in other case, obviously he means that there will be difference in the final forms. So if the difference in the final forms is not being shown, then the Bhashyakara's statement won't make any sense. So walking in the reverse path, because the Bhashyakara has explicitly given the difference of having an idagama in one case and not having an idagama in another case, the only reason for that should be the final form must differ. But how will a final form differ? We just saw over here that the final form will anyway be same, and therefore the conclusion is the final form can only differ if णिच् is not present. If णिच् is not present, then the final form will differ. When णिच् is not present, like the bhwadi case, if the णिच् is not present, the normal bhwadi case, then idagama will give ghushita, absence of idagama will give ghushta. So you see a difference in the final forms. When it comes to णिच्, that difference gets completely absorbed. So whether it is say idagama or whether it is without idagama, the forms are same. But if Bhashyakara would have agreed to these same forms, then there was no reason to distinguish avishabdane ghushir from vishabdane ghushir and say that avishabdane ghushir does not get an idagama and vishabdane ghushir gets an idagama. The reason why he distinguishes between the two is because he wants to say that the final forms differ. The only way that the final forms can actually differ is when the niche is not present, and therefore the $1,000,000 conclusion that can be generated out of all this circus, logical circus, is that घुषिर विशब्दने इति चुरादिगणस्य धातोः णिच् प्रत्ययः विकल्पेन भवति. If you go to the dhatu pattern, if you go to the 10th dhatu ghushir avishabdane, you can actually see forms with nich and you can see the forms without nich. Why is this particular difference justified? This particular difference is justified because of the sutra ghushir avishabdane. This particular dhatu can come in vishabdane as well as avishabdane. Avishabdane will require absence of idagama. The absence of idaagama and the presence of idaagama, the difference will always be shown only when the nich is not there, and therefore for the ghusha dhatu the nich comes optionally. Somebody is asking, are we talking about the optional nich for ghusha dhatu or for all churadigana dhatus? No, we are not talking about all churadigana dhatus. All churadigana dhatus do not get nich optionally. That's a very, very small corner case, or this small set of people who believe that sarve churadayaha nityanantaha and so on. So will not go in the details right now. I'm only talking about the ghusha dhatu. The conclusion is over there. Ghusha dhatu can either get an nich pratyaya or it can come without the nich pratyaya. So if somebody is asking when will nich not be there and when will nich be there, it completely depends on vivaksha. Both types of forms are possible. You can use a form with a nich, you can use a form without a nich, and therefore चुरादिगणस्य घुषधातोः, let me read the whole paragraph. चुरादिगणस्य घुषधातोः विषये घुषिरविशब्दमे इत्यस्य न किंचन प्रयोजनम्. That continues from the previous discussion. Whether it is set, whether it is with idagama or whether it is without idagama, the difference is there is no difference, and therefore चुरादिगणस्य घुषधातोः विषये घुषिरविशब्दने इत्यस्य न किंचन प्रयोजनम्. तथापि भाष्यकारेण स्पष्टरूपेण चुरादिगणस्य विषये धातोः विषये अपि अस्य सूत्रेषु उल्लेखः कृतः अस्ति. अयमुल्लेखः अस्य ज्ञापकं यत् चुरादिगणस्य घुषधातोः स्वार्थिकः णिच् प्रत्ययः विकल्पेन भवति. So the bottom line, the conclusion of the whole discussion is that the nich pratyaya on the ghusha dhatu of 10th gana is optional. Churadiganasya ghusha dhatoho swarthikah nich pratyah vikalpena bhavati. Therefore, you can have forms like ghoshati or ghoshita or ghoshishyati. All these forms are acceptable. And now you can see the difference. When you are using ghusha dhatu of the churadigana in avishabdane sense, it will behave exactly like the bhadiganya avishabdana dhatu. It will not have a nich. In addition, it will not have a nich pratyaya, and you will get the ghushta iti final form. So churadiganasya ghusha iti dhatu asti. Tasmad vikalpena nich pratyaya bhavati. When the nich pratyaya is not there, it behaves exactly like the bhadigani dhatu. You can treat it in sense of avishabdana. You can also get the final form as ghushta. When you get the idagama, you will have the final form as ghushita. Vishabdana and avishabdana, in both sense there is a nich vikalpa. We are not saying that in avishabdana the nich doesn't come and in vishabdana the nich comes. That's not what we are saying. All that we are saying is there are two different meanings, avishabdana and vishabdana. There are two different choices, do a nich or don't do a nich. All four combinations are possible. That's the conclusion given in the bhashya over here. So avishabdane arthe nich vikalpyate, vishabdane api nich vikalpyate. So ghoshati ityadini tinanta rupani siddhyanti. So the whole conclusion of this entire thing, please listen to this discussion once again from the recording. This is the only complex shastra aspect in today's class. The rest all sutras will flow very simply. All that we are discussing over here is there is this sutram ghushi ravi shabdane. This particular innocent looking sutram has been expanded to the 10th gana dhatu, but when it goes to 10th gana dhatu, the only way it can actually show its impact is when the nich does not come. on the 10th gana Ghusha Dhatu, and therefore the conclusion is that the Ghusha Dhatu of 10th gana optionally gets an itch. Why optionally? Because it is in the 10th gana, so we have to give it to it. Otherwise, there is no reason to put it in the 10th gana. And there is a situation where we don't want an itch. So both of these things balance out, and we say optionally tatra nich na bhavati. Let's read the commentary. If it is not clear, it will be clear once again. But it's extremely important that this particular bit of discussion, you hear it once or twice after the class. Write it down. There is no homework discussion on this because this is pretty involved Shastra aspect. Write it down in your own words if you want to be able to understand this particular aspect. So घुषिरविशब्दने काशिकाकारः किं वदति? घुषेः धातोः अविशब्दने अर्थे निष्ठायाम् इडागमः न भवति. So here he is all talking about the भ्वादिगणीय घुष धातु. घुष धातोः अविशब्दने अर्थे निष्ठायाम् इडागमः न भवति. घुष्टारज्जुः घुष्टौ पादौ अविशब्दने इति किम्? Avagushitam vakyam aha. A sentence has been announced. So announcement is vishabdana. For vishabdana you do not get the id nishedha. So ghushitam vakyam aha. Vishabdanam pratidnyanam, to express something or to make an announcement. Iti artha. Now understand. Ghushihi ashabdarthe iti bhwadishu pathyate. Ghushihi vishabdane iti churadishu pathyate. So on the top of it, the meanings are different. But tayoho iha samanyena grahanam. This sutram, the ghusha in this sutram represents both of them. Tayoho ityukte bhwadiganiya dhatoho churadiganasya cha dhatoho. Ubhayoho atra samanyena grahanam. Idanim ghushi vishabdane iti asti chat avishabdane iti grahanam katham bhavati. Tarhi tatra kimuttaram? चुरादिषु या धातु विद्यते तस्य अविशब्दनम इति अपि अर्थः, विशब्दनम इति अपि अन्यः अर्थः. तत्र अविशब्दनम इति अर्थः अस्ति चेत् अनेन सूत्रेण तस्य निर्देशः भवति. परन्तु एतत् सूत्रं तत्र प्रयुज्यते चेदपि इडागमस्य निषेधः क्रियते चेदपि रूपं तु न भिद्यते. इडागमः नास्ति चेदपि घुषित इडागमः अस्ति चेदपि घुषित. तर्हि तत्र किं ज्ञापकम्? एतत् सूत्रं चुरादिगणस्य धातोः विषये प्रयुज्यते, प्रयोक्तुं शक्नुमः इत्येव तस्य अस्य ज्ञापकं यदत्र णिच् प्रत्ययः विकल्पेन भवति. सो विशब्दन प्रतिषेधः ज्ञापकः चुरादिः णिच् विशब्दनार्थस्य अनित्यः इति. द णिच् प्रत्यय इज अनित्य. तेन अयमपि प्रयोगः उपपन्नः भवति. So he gives some example from the literature where the 10th gana ghusha dhatu is being used without the णिच् pratyaya. Mahipalavacha shrutva jughushu pushyamanavaha. So here jughushu form is used. This is the form for the 10th gana dhatu. It is used without the णिच् pratyaya. He's quoting a particular sentence from some literature. I don't know what this literature is. This sentence Mahipalavacha shrutva jughushu pushyamanavaha. This particular sentence occurs in Mahabhashya itself. So it is very rare that Mahabhashyam actually gives pieces from the literature. But if you go to this Sutra 7-23 and if you open up Mahabhashya over here, you can actually see the piece from the literature being quoted in the Mahabhashya all the way at the bottom of the screen. Mahipalavacha shrutva jughushu pushyamanavaha. Pushyamanavaha. Actually, this is a typing mistake. Pushyamanavaha iti bhavet. So I don't know which place it is picked up from, but because it is quoted in Mahabhashya, it must be a piece of literature before Mahabhashya. So all your Kalidasa, Bhasa, Magha and all that are ruled out. It must be a piece before Mahabhashyam, maybe some Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana or some other extinct literature, piece of literature. So that's basically in the Bhashya. So Kaumudi does not give any of this discussion because this is too involved and probably only of theoretical nature, not really needed in the idagama discussion. So ghushihi nishtayam anitsyat ghushtarajjuhu avishabdane kim ghushitam vakyam. That's all that Kaumudi says. So here this particular last bit that I mentioned about getting णिच् versus not getting णिच्, it's, you can treat it as a little bit out of syllabus. There is no homework discussion question on this. I just thought that I'll spend some time because anyway we are able to finish this class on time. So I thought I'll spend some significant amount of time on that particular aspect. One thing that I want you all to note is that there is already a sutram that we have studied 7-28 over here. Look at this. 7-28 is the sutram in set 2. There is sanghusha. I also talked it in the beginning of the class. Sanghusha iti asti. So sama plus ghusha ityasya vishaye tu idagamah vikalpyate. So same ghusha dhatu, but when upasarga comes, idagamah tatra vikalpyate. So sanghusha ityasya vishaye rushramatwara sanghusha sonam ityanena idagamah vikalpyate. Agre gachamah. Two more sutras in this particular section. So set number 3. The next one is arde. We finished Ghushira Vishabdane. Arde Sannivibhyaha and Abheshchavidurye. Both of these sutras are applicable to same dhatu arda. Arda gatau iti dhatuhu asti. Yachane ityate arthaha. Arda gatau iti dhatuhu. Set dhatuhu asti. Nityam idagamaha bhavati. Vishishtasya upasargasya upasthito idagamaha nishidyate. So sama plus arda and ni plus arda and v plus arda. That's arde sam ni vibhyaha. Sama plus arda, ni plus arda, v plus arda. Etebhyaha ityetebhyaha vihitayoho nishtha pratyayah idagamaha naiva ishyate. So sama plus arda plus ta will become samarna. Samarna. Ni plus arda plus ta will become nyarana. V plus arda plus ta will become vyarana. So that's it. Nothing else. So arda will give an idagama. Sama plus arda, ni plus arda, v plus arda will not give an idagama. So sama, ni, v ityetebhya uttarasya ardehe nisthayam idagamaha na bhavati. Kaumudi also says same thing. Etat purvat ardehe nisthayam idana syat. Samarna, nyarana, vyarana and so on. Ardita is different. So ardita, there is none of these upasargas, so you will get the idagama. Specifically for these three upasargas, the idagama has been blocked. That's it. These very specific sutras are only to justify certain prayogas. That's it. I mean, these kind of involved sutras actually make vyakaranam dirty, or it makes less enjoyable than studying shastra or studying logical aspects. But we have to, it's part of discussion, so we have to finish them off anyway. So specific vishayaha santi sama ni vi ityete upasargaha santi chet ardhatoho vihitasya nishtha pratyasya idagamaha na bhavati. Asya prakaranasya antimam sutram abheshcha avidurye. Same dhatu, a different upasarga is told. So here in the previous case you had sama, ni and vi. Now it's the same dhatu, but the upasarga that we are talking is abhi. Abhi plus arda iti asti chet vishishte arthe idagamaha na bhavati. So see how complex he has gone. He has added an upasarga and now he is adding another meaning on the top of it. Extremely complex. So abhi plus arda iti dhatuhu asti chet aviduram. We have studied this word, if you remember, long back in the Shaktva Prakaranam. Sir to Sh, class number 34. I have discussed this word. So aviduram means naiva nikate naiva dure, not too far, not too close. Kaumudi also says na ati duram na asannam, not too far and not too close. So basically aviduram asmin arthe abhi plus arda ityasya vishaye idagamaha nishidyate. So abhyarana sena, the army is neither too far nor too close. Abhyarana it should be. Abhyarana sharat, the sharad rutu is neither too far nor too close. So abhyarana sena, abhyarana sharata, abhishabdaduttarasya ardehe avidurye arthe. Avidura is neither too far nor too close. Ityasmin arthe nisthayam idagamaha na bhavati. Abhyarana sena, abhyarana sharata, avidurye iti kim. Again, anekartha dhatunam anekarthaha santi. So in different meanings this particular verb can be used, but you do not get this sutram, so idagama will happen. So abhyarditaha vrishalaha, the one that is tired, shitena piditaha, tired because of cold or is affected because of cold. Abhyarditaha vrishalaha shitena piditaha. Then he explains the meaning of avidurya. So viduram is viprakrushtam, far away, quite at a long distance is called viduram. Tataha anyat, so not at a far distance. Does not actually mean completely close, because if it would have been very near, he could have said nikatam instead of writing it as aviduram. So basically not too far iti arthaha. not too close, not too far. ततः अन्यत् अविदूरं तस्य भावः आविदूर्यम् इति अत्र अर्थः, इति अत्र आविदूर्ये शब्दस्य वृत्तिः. सो आविदूर्ये अभि प्लस अर्ध इत्यत्र अतिनिकटं नास्ति, अतिदूरं नास्ति, नातिदूरं नासन्नम्, अस्यां स्थितौ अभ्यर्ण इति शब्दः प्रयुज्यते. Again, as I mentioned, specific words we have to learn so that our vocabulary increases in the language. So this is one of the words explicitly used in the sense of not too close and not too far. अभ्यर्णा, सेना, अभ्यर्णा, शरत्, तकारान्त स्त्रीलिंग शब्दः अस्ति शरत्, अतः अभ्यर्णा शरत् इति उच्यते. अभ्यर्दितम् अन्यत्. So that's it, set number 3. We will also take set number 4 today. Let's actually go back a few slides. Here, set number 3 was nishtha pratyayoho sakshat idagama nishedha. Next, we still have half an hour. We won't need that much, but nishtha pratyayoho yasya vibhasha iti idagama nishedha. Only 2 new sutras, extremely simple sutras are there. So I'll take them and we'll stop. So nishtha pratyayoho yasya vibhasha iti idagama nishedha. So fourth category is also idagama nishedha. But here what is happening is that the dhatu gets an optional idagama somewhere else, and therefore the idagama has been blocked for the nishtha pratyayas. So the idagama is being given optionally for some other pratyaya, therefore it's blocked over here. So let's talk about that particular part. Somebody is asking the meaning of abhyardita over here. It's written abhyardita ityukte शीतेन पीडितः. अभ्यर्दितः वृषलः शीतेन पीडितः वृषलः इति अभ्यर्दित शब्दस्य अर्थः अस्ति. अभ्यर्ण means नातिदूरं नासन्नं, अभ्यर्दित means पीडित इति अत्र अर्थः. Okay, so that's the set number 4 that I was talking about. It's written in the blue color. Idagamasya apratyaksha nishedha. So let me take a few more questions. Somebody is asking, is it abhyarna or abhyarna sharat? So first of all, abhyarna is a typing mistake. Look at this. Abhyarna sena. Similarly, it should be abhyarna sharat. And the commentaries say abhyarna because sharat is takaranta strilinga shabdaha. So abhyarna sharat iti bhavati. Yeah, and if the question was whether it is abhyarna or abhyarna, this abhyarna is a typing mistake, as I mentioned. I'll fix it later on. Or even if I forget to fix it, understand while watching this video that it's a typing mistake. Abhyarna sharat ityeva bhavet. Okay, the next set of sutras, idagamasya apratyaksha nishedha. The first one is yasya vibhasha. So yes, I don't even have to explain that. Yasya vibhasha. Somebody earlier asked a question. Can you please explain what is yasya vibhasha once again? The word yasya is confusing. So understand this. Yasya धातोः विषये अन्यत्र इडागमः विकल्प्यते, तस्य धातोः विषये निष्ठा प्रत्यय इडागमः निषिध्यते. So that's the meaning of yasya vibhasha. If say for tva pratyaya idagama is made optional. Optional is important. So for tva pratyaya, if a sutra gives an idagama, that's not under the domain of yasya vibhasha. If for tva pratyaya some other sutram blocks an idagama, that is not under the domain of yasya vibhasha. Only when a sutra gives an optional idagama for some other case, vibhasha iti asti. Only when the idagama is made optional for some other case, nishtha pratyaya will immediately come over there and says no idagama for nishtha. So that's the crux of yasya vibhasha. Yasya vibhasha itself cannot do anything. There is a question in the homework on that. So yasya vibhasha itself is powerless unless you have another sutram which will give an it vikalpa. Yasya vibhasha cannot go over there and steal that thunder from there. So first you have to say किंचित अन्येन सूत्रेण कुत्रचित अन्यत्र इडागमः विकल्प्यते. Once you say that, yasya vibhasha will come over there and they will say atah asmat dhatoho vihitasya nishtha pratyasya idagamah nishidyate. So that's the yasya vibhasha, which is the top level sutram. I don't think I've even written it on the slide. The next one, so all the remaining sutras that we are going to study in the blue color, set number 4, are basically the sutras that will give an idagama in some other case, and therefore yasya vibhasha will come there and block the idagama. So out of those sutras, the first sutram over here, Swarati Suti Suyati Dhuyu Ditova, no explanation is needed. Classic sutra for the weight dhatus. The next sutra, Radhadibhyascha, no explanation is needed. The sutra for the weight dhatus. When I say no explanation is needed, I mean that I have already explained these sutras in significant details. Class number 16 or even class number 77. Go to any of these classes and you will be able to understand these two sutras. So तत्र प्रथम सूत्र द्वयं किमस्ति स्वरति सूति सूयति धूयुदितो वा तत्र द्वितीयं सूत्र उदाहरणानि यत्र दत्तानि सन्ति तत्र द्वितीयं सूत्रमस्ति रधादिभ्यश्च. For both these sutras the idagama is made optional for all pratyayas. So all that yasya vibhasha requires is one vikalpa, but swarati suti suyati is more relaxed, or it will say vikalpa for everybody. So whether it's vikalpa for one or vikalpa for everybody does not even matter for yasya vibhasha. As long as there is one vikalpa, yasya vibhasha will come there and block the idagama. So स्वरति सूति सूयति धूयुदितो वा इत्यनेन एतेषां धातूनां विषये विहितानां सर्वेषां प्रत्ययानां इडागमः विकल्प्यते. अतः तस्य उपरि तत्र यस्य विभाषा इत्यनेन निष्ठा प्रत्ययो इडागमः निषिध्यते. व्रधादिभ्यश्च इत्यनेन अपि अष्टधातवः तत्र सन्ति दिवादिगणे विद्यमानाः. एतेषां विषये विद्यमानेषां सर्वेषाम् इत्युक्ते सर्वेषाम् इट्योग्य प्रत्ययानां इडागमः विकल्प्यते. अतः तत्र nishtha pratyaya idagama nishidyate. So these two sutras we have already studied. The next sutra is tisha saha lubharusha rishaha, again studied in the previous class. Takaradi pratyaya asti. So atra kimuchyate saha dhatu asti, lubha dhatu asti, rusha dhatu asti, risha dhatu asti. एतेषां विषये तकारादि प्रत्यय अस्ति चेत् इडागमः विकल्प्यते. अतः निष्ठायाम् इडागमः निषिध्यते. So we are slowly reducing the scope. For the first two sutras, Swarati Suti and Radhadibhyascha, idagama was optional everywhere, and therefore yasya vibhasha blocked it. For Tisha Saha Lubharusha Risha, idagama is optional for the takaradi pratyas. The domain has been reduced, but still there are many of them. Yasya vibhasha will come and block it up. So again, the next sutra on that page. Sorry. So the next sutra on the next page is this Tisha Subha Luharusha Rishaha. So Tisha Subha Luharusha Rishaha. In this particular sutram, Saha Dhatu asti, Lubha Dhatu asti, Rusha, Risha. So all these dhatus are there. Some of these dhatus we have already seen earlier. So for example, Lubha Vimohane we have seen earlier. So Rusha Dhatu Vishe, Rusha Matvara Sanghusha Swanamittyanena Purvam Drishtamasti. So you keep these specific cases aside. Specific cases that have already been discussed, we keep them aside. All other cases, we can take them over here. So, Saha asti, Lubha asti, Risha asti, etesham vishayatra idagama nishidyate. Why we are not taking the Rusha Dhatu, even if the Rusha Dhatu is in the sutra? There has been a special treatment for the Rusha Dhatu earlier, so we don't need to take it. Rusha Matvara Sanghusha Swanamittyanena tasya vishishta rupena pakshikaha innishedha uktah asti, atah atra asya chintanam na kriyate. So that is the third one. The next one, fourth one, Sanivantardha Bhrasja Dambhu Shrisru Yurnu Bharadnyapi Sanam. That's only one of the two sutras that we need to take a quick look. So now what is happening? This particular sutram, I don't want to go in the details of this sutram. It is not in the scope of our syllabus. I just mention it in one line and talk about what is needed for us. So this sutram is giving the idagama vikalpa for the san pratyaya. So san iti इच्छार्थक धातोः कर्मण समान कर्तकादि इच्छायां वा इत्यनेन सर्वेभ्यः धातुभ्यः सन इति प्रत्ययः भवति. So san प्रत्ययस्य विषये इडागम विकल्पः भवति. Now yasya vibhasha doesn't care whether it is ktva or san or lit or takaradi or all pratyayas. Yasya vibhasha doesn't care. All that it says is that if there is an idagama vikalpa, I will come and block it for nishtha. So अनेन सूत्रेण ये धातवः उच्यन्ते अस्मिन् सूत्रे ये धातवः उक्ताः सन्ति तेषां सर्वेषां विषये निष्ठायाम् इडागमः निषिध्यते. That's all that we need to worry about. Now the funny thing is, a lot of dhatus that are in this sutram are actually anit, or some of them are udit, some of them are uganta, some of them are already been discussed. So when they are already been discussed and idagama is being blocked, you don't need to care about them right again in this sutram. Just like in the previous sutram, Rusha was already taken care of. In the same way, if you look at all other sutras, so Dambhu is there, it is Udit, so we have already taken care of it. Shri is there, so Shryukyakiti, we have already taken care of it. Svru is there, Svru is here Swarati Suti, so we have already taken care of it. So many dhatus over there we have already taken care of it. So only the remaining dhatus are two. There is a sana dhatu and there is an urnu dhatu. That's all that we want to worry about. So sana sambhaktau and urnui achadane, this is the word from the adadigana, urnui achadane. एताभ्याम धातुभ्याम विहितस्य सन प्रत्ययस्य सनिवंत, that big sutram causes an idagama vikalpa. Therefore, the nishtha pratyayas do not get an idagama. Let me repeat this. The sutra has many other dhatus, but for all the remaining dhatus, the idagama has already been blocked by set number 3. So we don't have to worry about it. When we are coming to set number 4, we will only talk about dhatus which are not yet being considered. So the only dhatus in this list are shana and urnu. You can work out the entire list later on and find out what are there, what if we are missing anything. But the only dhatus in this particular list are sana and urnu, and that's what we are saying. Sana plus the sata, urnu plus the urnuta. The point with urnu dhatu is that it is anekach. Ukara over there is not its samyaka. So there are two ach letters in this particular dhatu. And there is a group of scholars, Vyakarnas, who believe that if a dhatu is anekach, if there are more than one ach letters in the dhatu, very rare of them. I mean, if you consider ganas from 1 to 9, bhadi to kryadi, only handful of dhatus are anekach. For anekach dhatus, idagama will always be there. We don't have to think of any other sutras. That's a group of scholars who believe that. So for example, Siddhanta Kaumudi over here, look at this. Siddhanta Kaumudi believes that urnu anekach asti, so it will get an idagama, and therefore he would like to explicitly block it by giving a vartikam called urnotehe nuvadbhavaha vacha. So what Kashika is doing is, it doesn't talk about ekach versus anekach. It follows a simple path. It says urnu is there in this sutram over here. Therefore, urnu, the nishtha will not get an idagama for urnu. Therefore, the nishtha will not get an idagama for urnu, and therefore urnu plus ta is urnuta. That's a simple logic. What Kaumudi says is that no, even if the urnu is there in this sutra, yasya vibhasha will not come up for urnu because it is anekach, so idagama will anyway happen. But we definitely don't want the idagama. The final form he agrees that it should be urnuta, so he gives a vartika called urnutehe nuvadbhavaha vachaha, which says that the urnu dhatu behaves like the nu dhatu. Urnodehe nuvadbhavaha vachaha. When it comes to nishtha pratyayas, urnu dhatu behaves like a nu dhatu. The nu dhatu does not get an idagama, therefore urnu dhatu will not get an idagama. Is basically either this way or that way. He finally says there is no idagama. The simple way is to say that urnu dhatu comes in this sutram and therefore you don't get idagama. Kaumudikara doesn't agree to that. He gives a different vartika. He says even if urnu comes in this sutra, urnu is anekach, so it will have to get an idagama unless it's being explicitly blocked. So urnote, so blocking by yasya vibhasha is not acceptable is what he's saying, because it is anekach. So then he gives an explicit vartika, urnotehe nuvadbhavaha vachaha ityanena urnu dhatoho nu iti dhatuvadeva rupam bhavati, nu dhatoho nuta iti rupam bhavati, atha urnu dhatoho urnuta iti rupam bhavati. Iti atra ashayah asti. There is one question over here. I don't understand this. Arambha niyamartham bhavati. Punarukti is there. What kind of punarukti So the punarukti, if you are talking about punarukti for the verbs over here, all that it is saying is that verbs like bhrajya and dambha and shri will get idagama optionally for sana. That's all that this sutra is saying. All that I'm saying is yasya vibhasha doesn't need to act on it, because what yasya vibhasha is going to do has already been achieved. So let me repeat the question. Where the question says that there is a punarukti, like for example bhrashya and dambha and all that, the idagama has already been blocked, but there is a punarukti. Can we treat it as niyama? That's the question. Siddhe sati arambhaha niyamarthaha. The answer is there is no niyama over here, because no explicit condition has been added. All that he is saying is this particular sutram anyway has nothing to do with nishtha at all. So all that is saying is san pratyasya vishay etesham idagamaha vikalpyate. Yasya vibhasha is acting on the top of it and saying therefore nishtha pratyay idagama nishidyate. But what yasya vibhasha does not understand is that nishtha pratyay idagama purvameva nishiddha asti punaha tasya nishedhanena na prayojanam. So the yasya vibhasha is a blanket rule which is not explicitly for these sutras or these dhatus. So there is no niyama coming over here. It basically says the idagama has already been blocked. Doesn't matter. Let me block it again. That's all that it is saying. So for these dhatus, whether you block it by one of the previous sutras or by this sutra doesn't really matter. Eventually the idagama has to be blocked. I have already taught the previous sutras, so I said you can use the previous sutras. If somebody teaches this sutram in the beginning, he can say that I've already taught this sutram, so you can block it by this sutram. Either way is possible. Eventually, if you go to these dhatus, say dambha or bhrasja or shri or svru or yu, for all these dhatus you can say sru is weight dhatu, yu is uganta, shri itself is mentioned in the sutra, dambhu is ugit, bhrasja is anit. All these dhatus already will have blocked the idagama. For dnyapa dhatu, it is in the churadigana. As I mentioned, for the churadigana verbs, whether idagama is blocked, whether it is not blocked, does not matter at all. So for dnyapa dhatu, it is the same form. So dnyapa plus nica plus the idagama nasti chetapi dnyapita, dnyapa plus nica plus ita plus the idagama asti chetapi dnyapita. So all that needs vikalpa and all that is not to be considered in this particular case, because this is not being a jnapaka. There is no jnapaka being given over here. The nich vikalpa was considered earlier because the particular sutram Ghushira Vishabdani was acting as a jnapaka. Here there are no jnapakas. All that it is saying is that certain sutram, a certain dhatu is getting optional idagama for san pratyaya. That's all that particular sutram is saying. Yasya vibhasha is acting on the top of it and trying to extract the dhatus and block idagama for them. For some of them, the yasya vibhasha can give a successful result. For other, it's a redundant result. That's all that we are talking about. Okay, so that's we are on track. We should be able to finish in some 7-8 minutes. So that's where it was. So that's Sanivanta. The next blue colored sutram is Uditova. Again, we all have studied this. Twa pratyasya vikalpena idagama bhavati. So earlier it was san pratyasya vikalpena idagama. Here Sanivanta was san pratyasya vikalpena idagama. Now here there is a twa pratyasya vikalpena idagama atha nisthayam nishedha. So that's the next udit dhatu asti chet san pratyasya idagama twa pratyasya idagama nishidyate atah tatra twa pratyasya idagama vikalpyate atah nishtha pratyaya idagama nishidyate. The last sutram is vibhasha gamahanv visham. This is a sutra where vasu pratyaya, we will study this pratyaya. It's there right in this particular section towards the end. Bhutadhikara. This section means we are studying Bhutadhikara of Kridanta Prakranam, sheet number 4. After the entire nishtha pratyayas are over, we will go to this pratyaya called vasu. So it is there right in the nishtha, right in the Bhutadhikara only towards the end. This vasu pratyaya, the idagama has been made optional. So again, same. Earlier it was the san pratyaya for which the idagama made optional. Then twa pratyaya idagama was made optional. Now vasu pratyaya idagama is made optional. Therefore nisthayam id nishedha. 4 dhatus, gama, hana, vida and visha. Out of these, 3 dhatus are already anit. Gama is anit, hana is anit, visha is anit. Or yeah, I think so. So gama is anit, hana is anit and visha is anit. Because these dhatus are anit dhatu, idagama is anyway blocked. So what will yasya vibhasha do on top of it? Nothing. So the only purpose of yasya vibhasha for this sutra is this vida dhatu. For all others, you can bring yasya vibhasha. It is anyway blocking an idagama which is already blocked. So it doesn't really matter. So the only dhatu over here is vida labhe tudadi ganasya dhatu asti. Asmat dhato vihitasya kvasu pratyaso. So this pratyaya we will study. Kvasu pratyasya idagamaha vikalpyate. Ataha nishtha pratyo idagamaha nishidyate. Vida plus ta vinna iti bhavati. Vitta or vinna. That ta and na we will see later on. For now, all that you have to understand is the idagama is blocked. So eventually for all of them is blocked. Gama will become gata, visha will become vishta, hana will become hata, and vida will become vitta or vinna. But for remaining three, they are anit dhatus, so it's already blocked. Yasya vibhasha is doing a work on top of it. So that's what actually I told somebody last week over the email. This is a very important mantra that you should understand this. If the anit property blocks the idagama, then you don't have to worry about any other specific sutras. First of all, think if the dhatu is anit, then immediately block the idagama unless it is brought out, specifically brought in by one of those special cases. Otherwise, if the dhatu is anit and if it does not get an idagama, then the fact that it is anit is itself sufficient. You don't have to worry about any special yasya vibhasha or uditva or any other particular cases. So that's it. We are on time and we have finished all the 4 different entities. The first 2 affirmative idagama and the last 2 nishedha of the idagama. The first 2 we studied in the previous class. The last 2 we studied in today's class. If you see the sheet, there are actually 6 sets. The set 5 and 6 are still remaining. They are about nipatanas. So set number 5 is idagama vishishtam nipatanam. Set number 6 is idagama vishishtam vaidika nipatanam. So the nipatana in the bhasha and the nipatana in the loka, in the Veda, that's what we will study tomorrow. So in tomorrow's class, we will complete the discussion on idagama. As I mentioned, 3 classes were required, 1 class last week and 2 classes this week. We will finish the discussion on idagama by discussing set number 5 and set number 6 in tomorrow's class. So tomorrow there will be a regular class, and on Saturday there is a homework discussion. I have already received all the required homeworks. I have already sent back the final copies. People will be representing talking about the homeworks in the Saturday class. So that's it for today. Let's take a quick look at the exercise. I would like to spend a minute or 2 on the exercises. First question. Nirdishtayoho shabdayoho madhye vidyamanam idagama vishishtam bhedam sasutram spashtikritya etayoho vakye prayogam kuruta. So some cases, as I mentioned, some cases there will be idagama and some cases there will be no idagama. I have explicitly given pairs: dhrushta versus dharshita, shasta versus shasita, ghushta versus ghushita. Explain just the name of the sutram. So sasutram spashtikritya. You don't have to explain the sutram. Just give the name of the sutram that will block the idagama here and bring the idagama here, and use these sentences these words in your own sentences to show the difference. So bhimaha dhrishtaha asti. Simple example. Don't copy the same example. But for example, then it shows the dhrishta word in the usage. Or says suvarnam kashitam vyakaranam kashtam. So that shows the difference of kashta versus kashita in a sentence. So create your own sentences to exhibit, to bring out the difference between the given pair of words. And finally, the second question, adhodattanam dhatunam idagama yasya vibhasha ityanena katham nishidyate tat ekavakyena spashtikruta. So you have 10 give examples. The final form is also given. In all these cases, the idagama is blocked by yasya vibhasha. But yasya vibhasha, as I mentioned, is itself powerless. It needs some other sutra which is giving vikalpa somewhere else, and then yasya vibhasha can write on the top of it. So that's what is the other sutra? That's the question over here. So yasya vibhasha ityanena katham nishidyate. So then you can say nasha plus ta ityatra radhadibhyascha ityanena id vikalpaha ataha yasya vibhasha iti id nishedha. Or say su plus ta swarati suti suyati dhuyodito va ityanena id vikalpaha ataha nisthayam id nishedha. So specifically tell where is the id vikalpa. So vida plus the, just now we saw right now vibhasha gmahana vida visham ityanena क्वसु प्रत्यय परे id vikalpah atah atra id nishedha. So you have to tell me the corresponding sutram for which the idagama is optional. Therefore yasya vibhasha is giving idagama vikalpa. So that's all for this particular exercise. The homework discussion sheet is already over here. Today 26th November. The deadline is 6th December. We will discuss this particular homework on 12th December. समापयामः. श्वस्तनवर्गे पुनरेकवारम् इडागमानां निपातनस्य अध्ययनार्थं पुनर्मिलामः. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानाम् उपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिधिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. धन्यवाद.